Welcome, Daniel Kwak, to Wealth Matters podcast. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing excellent today. What's going on?
Same old, but nice to see you. We have been chatting about this, so finally we are able to record the episode. So, can you tell my listeners what do you do?
Yeah, it's actually very simple. It's simple in theory, right? But I pretty much help wealthy individuals get into real estate investing, primarily apartment and multifamily assets.
Awesome. So, and I know I can see Quoc Brothers. Can you tell us more about that and how you're working with your brother?
Yep. So the Quoc Brothers is, above all things, a brand. So
Okay.
obviously we have our hand in a lot of different baskets, whether it's our real estate investing business, whether it's our YouTube channel, whether it's our education company where we help individuals, aspiring real estate investors accomplish their dream. You know, Pretty much what it is my brother and I just loving people unconditionally through different platforms. So whether it's to our tenants, whether it's to our students, whether it's to our following on our YouTube channel, we just want to be able to give back, serve, and just love people by what we do. And, for me, it's been an amazing, amazing opportunity to be able to do that with my brother. As they say, the statement, water is great, but blood is thicker.
Right.
So, my brother and I have just grown together. We've learned in our journey how to be more selfless day by day. And it's been an awesome, fantastic ride. And of course, it's just beyond my brother and I. It says in the back the Quoc Brothers, but truth
But
be told, we got a large
of
family
course, you have a
around us,
team, right? Yeah.
right? Because we've got a
Yeah,
team. So,
yeah.
guys like Ricky and Joel and Mello, these guys
That's
are
the
like
key.
brothers to me. So they're also, as far as I'm concerned, their last names are also Quoc.
So, hey, do you mind me asking how old you are and how old is Sam? So that my
Yeah.
listeners can see, you guys started at such a young age and you are where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So believe it or not, Alpesh, I'm actually 59 years old. So, there's
With the
actually a
experience.
cream that I use for my skin that makes me look like I'm 25. So
Yeah, the
it's actually
Botox,
really
right?
cool. If you buy the cream, all you gotta do is just recruit 3 people, and those 3 people recruit another 3 people.
Exactly.
No, not at all. But I'm
Uh,
25 years old in all reality.
wow.
My
That's
brother is 27. He just turned 27 this past September.
that's
And
crazy.
when we got started, I was in entrepreneurship, not necessarily real estate investing, but in entrepreneurship. My brother was 18, I was 17. And in all honesty, my brother is more of the natural entrepreneur than I am. I actually kind of got dragged into this entrepreneurship world by my brother. So, credit is due, right?
Right. So, and I have followed you and Sam for a while, because and thank you for sharing the knowledge and words of wisdom and on Facebook and YouTube, etc. Right. So, and I know the reason I followed you was owner financing. So, can you define it in layman's terms?
Yeah, so owner financing is really difficult. You guys will never understand it. I have a God-given ability to only be the man on planet Earth to understand this concept. Uh, but in all reality, guys, owner financing is not as complicated as people think.
Right.
It's pretty much when the seller carries the remaining loan on your property. So in layman's term, the seller becomes your bank. We're
Right.
so used to, buying properties, and when we buy properties, we got to go to a bank. We got to get approved for a commercial loan, right? They got to get it appraised, and only then and after then can you finally close on the property. Well, seller financing is skipping all that process, not needing your own money or credit, but
Right.
actually having the seller be your financer. And, you guys negotiate the terms, which gives us a lot of flexibility. And it creates more of a win-win situation by cutting out the middlemen, such as banks, different
Mm,
institutions where they profit off buying and selling of real estate properties.
right. So, what are some of the advantages to buyer or an investor looking for owner financing?
Yep. So a lot of great benefits for me. And Alpesh, when I first started in real estate, I was 20 years old. And there's no way that me as a 20-year-old, I would go to a bank and they would give me a loan, a commercial
Right.
loan. Right? I mean, they'd be crazy. They'd be like, oh my gosh, I'd be laughed at.
Right.
However, if I go to the seller and I can show him ways where it's actually beneficial to him, there's no question I could get the deal done. So you don't have to have money or credit or long
No.
history of successful deals to do owner financing. So that's one benefit. Another benefit that, number one is you don't have to go to a bank. So, you don't have to provide strictly 20% or higher down payment. You don't have to
Right.
go with the interest rate that they give you. You don't have to go with the terms they give you. You have the flexibility to be able to set it up
Yeah,
yourself.
basically you can negotiate all that, right? With
Yep,
bank you cannot.
100%. Yep, you can't negotiate that with a bank.
Right.
But, I always say the best part about it is not the fact that you get to win, but also the seller gets to win too.
Right.
You as an entrepreneur have the innate opportunity to identify what this individual's problems are, and you get to use seller financing as a vehicle to be able to solve his problems.
So you mentioned win-win situation, and you said that, or you also mentioned just now that the seller can benefit. What do you mean by that? What are the advantages
Yeah.
for seller?
Yeah. So they get to close quick, meaning that they're able to, sell their property more quickly as opposed to going with a bank. The first apartment building that I ever bought was an 8 unit. I actually bought that building no money down. We
Wow.
checked out the building on Tuesday. We closed on it on Friday. So we were able to close on it in 3 days because the seller needed to get rid of it quickly. You
And
can't do
this
that if you're going with bank financing. It's going to
and
take you months.
and the seller was open to carry the entire amount.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
wow. That's
Yeah,
pretty
and
cool.
and he was in a situation where he needed to get rid of the property ASAP. And there's no way you're gonna get that done with bank financing,
Right.
unless you have all cash to do it, which
Yeah.
most people don't have all cash to buy an entire apartment building. He needed to close quick, and we got it done.
So, what are the gotchas for investors while looking into owner financing deals?
Gotchas. What do you mean by gotchas?
Because, like, let's say, as you just mentioned, that the seller needed to get rid of the property.
Hmm.
So, what should an investor keep in mind even while doing owner financing deal? Because a lot of people, and including me, when I see something like this, I'm like, oh, this is a shiny object, right? I'm just gonna do owner financing. I'm not gonna care about anything else. So, what do you think are the gotchas, right? Because you could end up paying a lot more than the
Yeah.
market value, or you can inherit a property which will not go up in value, or you are not going to be able to turn it around. So what are some of the gotchas you have seen which someone like me should keep in mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So, only doing seller financing is not a good decision. And don't get me wrong, I bought a lot of my properties through
Right.
owner financing, but that's because that's what the seller needed at the time. So, only going with seller financing, that's like being a basketball player and only knowing one move. You're
Hmm.
not going to get very far, and you're also going to get very predictable, right? It's just not going to, you're not going to have a successful career by
Right.
doing that. So, I always say owner financing is a vehicle that could potentially help out the seller in that situation. But if the seller is needing all cash, then don't do seller financing. Find creative solutions to be able to help out your sellers rather than trying to stick to one strategy. So a lot of people are very romantic about the way they make their money, and that shouldn't be the case.
And how do you convince a seller with owner financing? I know you just mentioned win-win
Yeah.
situation, some
Well,
benefits, but how do you?
easier said than done.
Yeah,
I actually
yeah.
have a free class on owner financing, on all the ups and all the downs, on how to do exactly that. So, the class we put out is 2 to 3 hours long. So, the class is literally free ownerfinancingcourse.com. So if people went to
Thank you for
free
sharing.
ownerfinancingcourse.com, they get a free class. It's completely complimentary. 2 to 3 hours. I go over everything on seller financing. Matter of fact, I actually do a 45-minute role play with one of the guys in my office in seller finance negotiations. So you guys are literally able to watch me negotiate owner financing with somebody. And it's about a 45-minute segment in the class. But, we talk about everything. I invite my tax professional, Steve Hamilton, who in my opinion is by far one of the best tax professionals I've met in my journey. We do an interview on all the tax benefits, pros and cons, of the details of seller financing. I mean, we literally cover everything when it comes to owner financing that a person would need to know to execute on that.
So, what are the key takeaways from that course? Like, when I need to convince, what do you use, like your top three sentences when you are chatting with the seller?
Yeah, so for me, I'm not gonna lie to you, Alpesh. I'm not your typical real estate investor. Uh, I'm not a big fan of scripts. I'm not a big fan of certain phrases. Now, I do talk about questions that I do ask, and how to ask those questions, and those are questions that are pretty universal. That are with my negotiating. I'll ask these questions every single time I negotiate. But in terms of certain phrases, I'm not a big proponent because when you have certain scripts and phrases in mind before you're walking into a negotiation, well, what does that mean? It means that you already have a preconceived
Yeah,
notion and an assumption on how this is going to go down.
right,
And when you have that, that's very dangerous because that now limits you from being able to
right.
truly 100% focus on actually adding value to this
Yeah,
individual.
yeah, and yeah, you won't even try to understand the problem they have, right? You are going
Exactly.
to have only one solution and only one
Right.
solution, right?
Perfect example is, I've done martial arts my whole life. And
Uh-huh.
the fighters that walk into the cage or the octagon or competition, and they already have a preconceived notion on what they're trying to do, a lot of times they lose,
Hmm.
because they're not able to go in, and that disqualifies them from being able to actually read their opponents in terms of what they're going to do. And are they going to throw this and jab, whatever? And it disallows them from being able to truly be a martial artist. So being a true real estate investor and an entrepreneur is the same thing.
Cool, awesome. So thank you for sharing what owner financing is and how it works. We'll take a quick break. Welcome back to Wealth Matters Podcast. I'm chatting with Daniel, and we are discussing about owner financing. And he's trying to show me his martial arts moves right now. But I see that at this age you have been successful and you are
Yeah.
also helping others succeed as well. So I'm pretty sure, and you and I and every real estate investors have made some mistakes. So what were
Yeah.
some of the mistakes you have made, and what did you learn from them?
Yeah. Well, uh, it's crazy. It's cliche because everybody talks about you got to believe in yourself, right?
Yeah.
But not just believing in yourself. A lot of real estate investors that I come across, they struggle with confidence, and they struggle with fear, and a lot of them feel like they're stuck. And I always tell people all the time, listen, your confidence will come from your competence, right? Meaning
Right.
that's the work ethic, the amount of time that you're choosing to learn this craft, right? I
Right.
mean, we're
Right.
talking about doctors who go to medical school, they go spend years in their craft. Us as real estate entrepreneurs, we should be doing the same thing.
Right.
So for me, I'm not a really flashy guy, right? Like you could probably tell I'm wearing a hoodie. I still drive a Corolla, yet probably
Yep.
make more money than 99.9% of people in the United States. So I always say, stay true to who you are, and focus on your strengths and find ways to align yourself with people who could complement your weaknesses. My biggest mistakes I made in my career is partnering up with people who had phenomenal energy, they had phenomenal knowledge, but they lacked integrity. So that's the number one thing I would recommend. There have been a couple times in my career where, I've taken some pretty serious blows because I partnered with somebody or I even associated with somebody who, they were very charismatic. They were good at what they did. But at the end of the day, when their backs were against the corner, they lacked that integrity. So my biggest mistake probably is who I spend my time with, who I partner with, and who I associate with.
That's a great advice, and I have seen this same similar thing in my career as well already, where these are pretty famous people, celebrities in real estate world, and I partnered with them, and they have lack of integrity. They don't have any integrity, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. Those people, the gurus, and so to speak,
Right.
I feel bad for them because they all they do is talk about money and they talk and they talk, but
Yeah.
they can't produce. I always say they wouldn't even be able to draw money if they had green crayon on a white sheet of paper.
Yeah, yeah. They don't do any deals by themselves. That's what I
Yeah,
realized. They sell education, and then they ask their students to go buy the property and they sign the contract so they get paid, blah blah blah. So but
right.
but they don't have real experience. That's what I've been noticing as well. Anyhow, would you be able to share numbers from one of your best deals?
Yeah. So the best deal, my favorite deal so far hasn't been the biggest, but I'd say my favorite deal, which I would define as my best, just because I had the most fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, that's what defines as best.
Right.
It's not the one that makes the most money, but
No.
it's the one, number one, the people I get to do it with, and number two, if I have fun, did I enjoy
Yeah.
it?
Did you enjoy it? Yeah.
So my favorite best one would probably be the nightly rental. So I started acquiring some nightly rentals.
Uh-huh. So
And
is it like Airbnb?
yeah, so
Like
Airbnb
short-term
is
rental? Okay.
yep, is one of the platforms, and I do it a
Right.
little differently than
Oh,
people.
okay.
So most people, they like to take control of a property by a way of a master lease, and they'll work with a landlord, and they'll say, "Hey,
Right.
I'm going to lease out the space. I'm going to, turn this into an Airbnb,
Right.
whatever
Short-term
unit
rental.
listing,
Yeah.
short-term rental, and I'm going to make money that way." I decided to buy the property and then do it that way because at the end
Oh,
of the
okay.
day, I'm a big believer in equity. And if you look at the richest people in the world, their mindset is they always think 10, 20, 30, 40 years up ahead, right? In
Yeah.
advance.
Yeah.
The people who are struggling financially, the people who aren't truly wealthy, they always think short term,
Right.
right? So if I were to take control of a property, that's great short term, but there's no long term benefits to that.
Right. And
There's no
also you got to
equity.
keep doing it, right? So you have to do
Yeah.
a lot more transactions to make it work, right?
Yeah, and
Unless you
I
are
yeah, and I always tell aspiring real estate investors, listen, if you want to be rich, go for cash flow. If you want to be wealthy, go for equity,
yeah.
right? Go for equity. That at the end of the day is the true difference maker. So I actually bought the property, and we bought it for $135,000, and now it produces about $45,000 a month in gross income.
Wow.
So
And where
that's
is this located?
this is it's in one of the cities in northern Indiana.
Oh, okay.
So, you're talking about, with that market, that's 4 or 5 times that you would be getting in traditional rent.
Rent, yeah.
We're actually able to get. And so it was cool because, at the end of the day, I'm an apartment complex guy. I love multifamily, but it was really neat to, buy the single family home. And not only that, but also, making it look pretty, and just, the details that I'd never noticed. So I had fun. It's something I've never done before, nowhere even
Yeah.
close. But getting the furniture, going
Furnitures,
there,
yeah.
painting it, and even
Interior
just
designing, right?
interior designing,
Yeah,
right? And
that's
just
it's
the little stuff like
right.
buying an air hockey table to put in the living room for the guests to enjoy.
Uh-huh.
Just little things like that, is what really excited me, and I had fun, because there's a lot of interior design components to Airbnb listings. My wife, who's an interior designer, she got to
Oh, okay. So
have
she
some
had
of her
fun too.
say, and so we all have fun.
Right.
It was one of my really good friends, Sam Saboti, and Lisa, my wife. We got to do this deal together, so I had a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now can you share your Halloween horror story or your worst deal?
Yeah, so my worst deal that I ever done. I don't know if I have a deal that went terrible.
Okay.
Um, the worst scenario I could think of is I introduced some of my investors, to another individual who was flipping homes,
Uh,
and that just went completely sideways. So
uh,
I'm actually right now in the midst of recovering that situation and getting my investors their principal back, because I actually had to step in because did I have any reason to stay and work things out? No, right? My
no,
name wasn't attached to any of the paperwork or anything like that. I wasn't a partner in on the deal, but my reputation and my integrity
reputation.
is on
Yeah.
the line, and for me, that's everything.
Yeah.
And with my investors, I tell people all the time, look, I don't recruit investors, I make friends, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So these guys are people I genuinely care about and have a relationship with.
Same.
And I'm going to do everything I can in my power, even if it's putting some of my real estate stuff on hold, to make sure that justice is
Right.
being done.
Right. No, yeah, your network is your net worth, and real
Yeah.
estate is such a small world that I realized that you know someone who would know someone as well, right? So you
Yeah.
want to be careful, and reputation is the key,
Yep.
right?
100%.
So, so where are you buying right now, and what kind of properties?
Yeah, so I'm buying right now in St. Louis,
Okay.
Indiana, and also Florida, and we're working on some larger apartment complexes. For about 2-3 years, I actually held off on buying apartments. The last building I bought was in 2017, and I had to compete against 15, 16 other offers.
Yes.
That
It's been
tells me that,
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. We have the most amount of market share and capital going towards multifamily than we've ever had before.
Yeah.
Estimated 26.4% market share of all real estate capital is going
Yeah,
into
I've been
apartment
putting
complexes.
offers, and there were counter offers, and someone would pay like 10-20% more than me and get the
Yep.
property. Like,
And we
numbers
have
don't
a
make
very,
sense.
yeah, and we have a very high number of foreign buyers. We have in
Right.
2019 the largest amount of multifamily development since 1971. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a wild west show right now in the apartment complex game. So fortunately, we've been able to identify certain niches that I'm not gonna lie to you, Alpesh, not a lot of people know about. So
That's
one of my
good.
business partners, he used to run pretty much a 9-figure hedge fund in New York,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
he gets a lot of the insider information. And although we can't use it for stocks, we can certainly use it for real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So we're putting that information to good use. So our investors right now are super duper stoked about what's coming, because we're working on some rather big things right now.
That's awesome. And which markets in Florida are you investing in or looking at?
Yep. So we're specifically looking at Northern Florida.
Okay.
So obviously, I can't reveal the
Right.
cities
No.
that we're doing this in, but obviously that information is left for our investors and our partners. But Northern Florida is what we're looking at. We're looking at East St. Louis as
Mm-hmm.
well. And these are some markets that we've identified to be pretty good.
That's awesome.
In terms of price versus income. But that's what we're looking at.
Hey, and what do you think of the current market cycle? Because we keep hearing about recession since 2015. Have you slowed down buying, or have you changed your approach?
Yeah, so for me, there's no slowing down. There's only adjustments.
Right.
I tell people all the time, listen, there is a market cycle, and there are
Yes.
strategies that are being promoted in real estate that are just wrong, and they only work with certain times in the market
Right.
cycle. But you got to make adjustments. You got a lot of people out there that are selling certain strategies, and they're telling them to do it every single year in the 10-12 year market cycle. And that's just dangerous. You can't be
Yeah.
telling amateurs and people who just don't know any better, that these strategies work every single year. That's just not true,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we saw the repercussions of that in
Yep.
2008, 2009.
Yeah.
So, what do I think about the market? I look at the market, what's going on, and it's very scary.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people saw that the interest rates, they cut interest rates again last week. Although my personal opinion is that I don't think the interest rate matters as much as right now as people think it does. If you look at the
Right.
global capital
Yeah.
arbitration model that's going on between the European Federal Reserve and the American Federal Reserve, you look at what's going on in the domestic repo market with monetary policy, that's a very scary thing that's going on. I
Yeah.
read an article yesterday morning saying they're pumping $190 billion into the operational repo market every single day. And they're
Wow.
doing that indefinitely. That was supposed to stop November 10th, right? And
Yeah.
we're only 4 days off, and they announced that they're going to continue it every single day indefinitely. So
Yeah.
you've got a lot of money being pumped out right now. You're looking at 10-year treasury yields. You look at corporate bond markets, and
Yeah.
it's a very interesting time. And there's a lot of money being poured into our
Oh
economy.
yeah. It's a
Rates
lot
are
of.
relatively low. And the real estate market right now is something that's let's say I'm waiting for things to happen.
Oh yeah. Me
I've got
too.
some I've got some pretty bold predictions. I think a lot of people are saving capital, especially in the real estate market. You look at companies like Berkshire Hathaway, who have
Mm-hmm.
record numbers of capital being stored, but
Right.
I think a lot of people are doing that. And when you have a lot of capital being stored and saved, and it's being waiting, right? It's waiting for that capital to be pushed out into the market because they're looking for a certain opportunistic amount of time. I think that forces entities like the Federal Reserve to put money back into the market and increase
Right.
the money supply. So
Yeah.
on one end, your operational money supply is rather
Yeah.
high,
Yeah.
but you got a
It's
lot of people holding on to cash.
right. It's
It's a
just
very interesting equation.
they're creating cheap money so that they want people to start investing, keep the money rolling, but that's not happening.
Yeah, and I think the people who are raising a lot of money and holding on to as much of that cash, I don't think it's going to be as opportunistic as they think it is.
Uh-huh. Okay, interesting. Hey, so one last thing I wanted to talk about when you are doing owner financing,
Mhm.
what kind of terms have you done, or what are some of the favorable terms?
Yep. So the very vast majority of my owner financing deals, most of them have been 10% down, 4% interest, 25-year amortization on average.
Amortization.
Yep.
And do you have like a balloon?
Nope.
No balloon, so
I try not
25
to.
years? Oh,
I,
that's
I tell
awesome.
real estate investors all the time, listen, keep that balloon period as long as possible. If possible, don't have it. Don't have
Okay,
it. Because a lot of
okay.
these guys that are getting short balloons, like 3, 5-year balloons, they're putting themselves in a position where there's going to be some bad times ahead.
Right,
I'm
right.
a big advocate of history. I don't think history repeats itself, but I sure think it's got its patterns.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and you look at a lot of people in 2005, 2006 who got those short-term balloons, 3 to 5 year balloons, because they wanted a lower rate. A
Right,
lot of them ended
yeah. Or
up being,
five one arm, seven one arm, and they couldn't refinance.
yeah, so I tell people right now, especially the guys who've got interest-only loans financing,
Yeah.
they're putting themselves in a very dangerous position.
It's very risky. And market has its cycle, and we know market has been going up for 10 years. It's not healthy for economy to just go up like this. It has to be in, bell curve or something, right? It has to have some dips and downs.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. But thank you so much. Anything else we forgot to discuss about owner financing?
No, not at all. Obviously, I offer that free course. So that's freeownerfinancingcourse.com. Everything you need to know about owner financing is right there. And we spent a good amount of resources and a lot of my time putting that course together. So it's our gift to the people. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to help.
And I'll put that on the show note as well. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Appreciate your time, Daniel.
Thank you. Likewise.
Take care.